there, it's me, Brian Bond, and I'm excited you're here checking out my channel, Bri Clogger. Today we're going to do another section of our interview with Simone Nichols. This is section number 2 of our interview with Simone Nichols Pace. Stay tuned.
To the history and in the Great Smoky Mountains. The Great Smoky Mountains are on the southern perimeter of the Southern Appalachian mountain chain. And the settlers there were in large part German, Irish, and English. But I am proud that we've owned our land in that county since 1800.
Wow.
And then, of course, there were no slaves up in the mountains, but the black culture had, of course, swept across the United States. And so we borrowed pieces of the best parts of the dancing from the black culture, from the Cherokee culture, and then from the cultures of all those countries of people that settled that area. And a lot of times, like you said, they worked hard all week, and they were exhausted by the end of the week. And on Saturday, they would work half a day, and then they would take their bath for the week, because a lot of them didn't have running water. They had to take to the creek. And they would put on their very best clothes, and they would go to their communities, and a lot of them didn't understand each other's languages.
Yeah.
And so they would put on their best clothes, and they would take the people that settled there didn't have much. And so they only brought with them a large part was what they could carry in their head, carry on their back. They brought their musical instruments. They brought their recipes from their country. Their culture had food that they loved. And the music and the dancing and the food all blended together to make them understand each other. And they joined hands in a circle. And the power of holding hands in a circle is absolutely amazing.
Wow, that's great.
And they welcomed everybody up there.
You know, it's funny. I have a video that we did a dance festival last year, and it was very well received. And it's not like a million viral hits, but it's got 40,000 views so far. And one of the comments I make in the video is that clogging is derived from a combination of flat-footing, Irish step, and African tribal dancing. And somebody commented on the video, "Oh, you're a PC culture police." I'm like, absolutely not. It is absolutely borrowing from all these different, just like America is a melting pot of cultures, right, that have combined together. And what I think a lot of people forget is, yes, we celebrate our diversity, but we also celebrate what we have in common and how it's brought us together, right? And I think clogging is a great symbol of that. So
I do too, and I think that especially those mountainous regions, they depended on each other.
Yeah.
You know, they had to be very self-sufficient. They grew their own food. They milked their cows. They grew pigs for their meat, and their fats and oils came from the animals and from working the land. So absolutely, they depended on each other, and whoever lived there was part of their community. And you know, we don't know what melted together when. That's a quote from Jeff Griggs, and I love that because he and I have talked about this is the melting pot, but we don't know what melted and when it melted.
Yeah. Oh, goodness.
So I love that idea. There's not a lot of documentation of the early years, because, and the reason it's called folk dances is because these are not high society dances.
Good point.
These are just regular people
who
are dancing. And when my father was doing his research for his book that he wrote the Encyclopedia of Southern Appalachian Square Dancing, and the frustration was there wasn't a lot of written history because it was handed down through oral traditions, through folklore.
Yeah.
And the reason there's not a lot of written traditions is the high society people thought it was beneath them to write about what the common people were doing.
Interesting.
And most of the common people didn't read or write. So they had to tell the story to their children and show their children. And that's why we feel such a connection with it, because it was handed down through our family.
And you know, one of the things I've been trying to do the last 10 years, I have so many old videos, and unfortunately the old VHS and those little mini digital tapes, they're not high quality, but I'm trying to get people to understand how important it is to get those digitized and put on YouTube, because that is the historical record of our country, of this era. Like, you've been clogging since 1964, and the dynamic changes in the cultural dance we do directly reflect the dynamic changes in the culture of our country. Right? Like, back in the old hee-haw days, clogging was exciting and fun, but look at what it's become today. It's so much more dynamic and versatile, and there's, you know, it's as our culture progresses and expands, so does the dance that we represent it with. So I think that's interesting.
Absolutely.
Want to push pause again?
And that was another analogy. If you ever, my dad's book is out of print currently, but we are working with a publisher to get it reprinted. But
Good.
That was another analogy that he always made, was the traditional style of dancing will never change.
Yeah.
And it is always the same. So traditional clogging will stay the same forever and ever. However, competitive clogging is what evolves and what pushes the evolution, because competitors have to come up with the newest, latest, greatest.
Yeah.
And in order to appeal to the entertainment community, which I know you appeal to the entertainment, you've been on TV more than anybody. And so you have to stay up to date with what is the current craze of the time. And
well,
throughout the history of clogging and clog dancing, every time there's a new craze or a new trend, it filters its way in.
I'll tell you though, what I was going to say about that. So I personally feel like one of the key reasons I've been so successful, because you're right, I've been on more TV shows than any other clogger in the country. We're going to if God willing, if quarantine doesn't cancel it, we're doing another TV show Saturday and Sunday. Please. So, yeah. And if not, we'll do it after the quarantine if it gets canceled. But right now we're booked for this weekend. But one of the key factors and the reason I think I've been so successful is because I don't just do contemporary clogging. My show is built around traditional, a little bit of tap, a little bit of Irish, and contemporary. Because I don't think people want to sit and watch just one thing for an hour, right? Like, it's sort of like Charlie Brown's School Teacher. If I went wah 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 wah, they'd tune me out. And I think that's what makes the show exciting. Our opening number is 40 years old, and it is still just as exciting today as it was then.
Oh, I love to watch the choreography from the mid-'80s. It's so beautiful.